Imagine treating your own face like it's, well, just a rough draft.
Right.
You aren't just putting on a little makeup for a night out or maybe trying a new haircut. You're looking in the mirror and seeing a collection of disparate parts that are just, I mean, they're somehow fundamentally incorrect.
Like they're just waiting to be swapped out for an upgraded model.
Exactly. And if you've ever found yourself, zooming into a selfie to blur out a single pore, or wondering why every influencer on your feed suddenly has the exact same cat-like eyes, you already know we're living in a very strange era.
A really unprecedented era of physical expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we are taking a deep dive into excerpts from a book called Pixel Flesh: How Toxic Beauty Culture Harms Women by Ellen Atlanta.
It's a fascinating read.
It really is. And our mission today is to pull apart the machinery behind modern beauty standards. We're looking at the psychology, the digital architecture, and honestly, the massive financial incentives that have merged social media and aesthetic medicine.
Merge them into this inescapable loop, basically.
Right. But before we get into the weeds, I think we should clarify our approach here.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it is worth noting up front that the source material contains some very strong sociological arguments. I mean, we are dealing with massive, deeply entrenched concepts here. Things like feminism, capitalism, the patriarchy.
Huge topics.
Right. So our goal with this deep dive isn't to take a political side or necessarily endorse these specific viewpoints. We are just here to impartially unpack the arguments the author lays out.
We just want to understand the mechanics of how our digital world is literally reshaping physical reality.
Exactly. We want to see how a screen changes the flesh, as she puts it.
So we're digging into the why and how. And to understand that mechanism, we have to start with a story from the author that honestly feels like it belongs in a dystopian sci-fi novel.
Oh, the Spanish Desert Retreat.
Yes. So Ellen Atlanta found herself working at this venture capital-backed, female-founded beauty startup. And the team goes on this corporate retreat to Spain.
And the way she describes the environment's like a Goop Noir parody.
That is the perfect phrase for it. They're sleeping in these futuristic, inflatable pods, going on meditative self-discovery hikes by day, and then sitting on plastic chairs doing risk assessment exercises for this new app.
And the premise of the app they were developing is just, well, it's where the reality of this industry becomes chillingly clear.
Yeah, tell them what the app actually did.
So it was designed as a platform where users could browse trending body parts. Picture a digital carousel, right? Much like you'd browse for shoes online, but instead you are swiping through specific eyebrows or lips or jawlines.
Just adding features to a cart?
Basically, yeah. You could find out exactly where a celebrity got their cheeks injected, and then with a single tap, book an independent esthetician to give you that exact same feature.
I mean, it's treating the human face like a Mr. Potato Head toy.
That is exactly what it is.
Your features are just these interchangeable accessories that you swap out based on what happens to be trending. And during this retreat, the author has this horrifying moment of clarity.
Right. She looks around and realizes they are building a literal beauty Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, they're actively creating an algorithm designed to incite mass insecurity in young women just to sell them cookie-cutter faces.
And to ground that observation, the author offers some incredibly vulnerable personal confessions in the text. I mean, she talks about her own relationship with her digital image, and it's heartbreaking.
It really is. At just 16, she began decapitating herself in photos.
Literally cropping her own head out of the image.
Right, because she felt her body was acceptable for public consumption, but her face was not.
And then she describes this meticulous creation of what she calls her pixel flesh. She wouldn't just use a generic filter.
No, she would zoom into her screen-like as far as the software allowed, pinching the image closer and closer until the photo degraded into literal gradients of color, just tiny little squares.
And then she would painstakingly shave down those pixels, sculpting this flawless digital avatar.
And she'd post it online to rapturous applause. But the problem, obviously, is that she still had to exist in the physical world.
Right, the physical world doesn't have a blur tool. And that disconnect creates a profound psychological fracture.
Oh, the story about the new top.
Yeah, she buys this new top for a night out. Online, posing in mirror selfies, she gets a flood of validation fire emojis, compliments, thousands of these micro-affirmations.
But then she actually steps outside her front door.
Exactly.
Huh.
And the physical gaze of real people felt so unbearable compared to her curated digital world. She ended up clutching her coat closed the entire night.
Sweating through the brand new top.
Yeah, completely unable to reveal the body she had just been celebrated for online.
It's an agonizing way to live, and the
Yeah.
industry actively compounds that, like the
Right.
anecdote she shares about an aesthetic doctor.
Right. She goes for a consultation, and completely unprompted, the doctor tells her that her cheeks lacked definition.
A perceived flaw she had never even considered in her entire life.
But from that exact moment on, it became an absolute obsession.
Which brings up a huge question for me. I mean, if the goal of social media is supposedly to show off our unique lives to be our authentic selves, why does this technology push us to edit away the very things that make us look unique?
Well, it comes down to the business model, honestly. Uniqueness is the enemy of scale.
Interesting.
If an app wants to sell 1 million procedures, it cannot cater to 1 million different definitions of beauty. It needs a template. It needs a unified blueprint that everyone is aspiring to buy.
Okay, that makes terrifying sense.
And to understand why we are all being pushed toward that singular look, we have to look at the ultimate archetype of this customizable digital face.
Right, the blueprint itself. And that blueprint really comes down to one highly optimized archetype, Kylie Jenner.
She is undeniably the poster child for the postmodern beauty standard.
We are talking about someone with hundreds of millions of followers who built a literal billion-dollar empire off her augmented face.
But her origin story is what perfectly illustrates how this works. It shows how a hyper-personal, localized insecurity can be commodified into a global standard.
Yeah, because when she was 15, a boy she kissed insulted her, right? He told her she had small lips.
Just a single cruel comment from a teenage boy. But it triggered a deep insecurity, which led to her getting lip fillers at 17.
And that one highly publicized personal decision eventually shifted the global stock market. It changed the definition of beauty for an entire generation.
It did. And writer Gia Tolentino actually coined a term for what this aesthetic evolved into. She calls it the Instagram face.
Which is everywhere now. It's characterized by completely poreless skin, plump high cheekbones, cat-like eyes, lush lips, and a very small, neat nose.
Right. It's a face that doesn't actually look entirely human. It looks distinctly algorithmic.
It's designed to read well on a screen, optimized for lighting and facial recognition software.
And the statistics from the source material highlight just how homogenized this look has become. There was a qualitative study of 50 top models and influencers on Instagram.
The numbers on this are crazy.
They really are. 100% of them had a chiseled jawline. 100% had zero acne. 86% had full lips.
And 64% had those uplifted cat-like eyes. It is practically a uniform at this point.
And the collateral damage of trying to achieve this uniform is terrifying, especially the physical risks taken by young audiences.
Oh, you mean like the Kylie Jenner lip challenge?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had underage girls sucking their mouths into shot glasses to create a temporary swelling effect.
Bursting blood vessels and causing irreparable tissue damage.
Yeah.
Just desperately trying to mimic an augmented face using whatever they had in their kitchen cabinets.
Now, as they got older, it didn't stop at shot glasses. The Aesthetic Plastic Surgery National Databank reported that between 2019 and 2020, Botox procedures jumped by 54%.
And dermal fillers increased by 75% in 1 year.
Right. But we do need to contextualize those numbers because it's easy to assume this is just, the modern version of an old trend.
Well, right. That's what I was thinking. I mean, we've always had beauty icons, right? Marilyn Monroe, Twiggy, Kate Moss. Women have always tried to copy the hair or the makeup of the era's biggest stars. Is Kylie Jenner really any different, or is it just that the technology to copy her is now available on our phones and at the local strip mall?
It is different, and here's why. Comparing Marilyn Monroe to Kylie Jenner completely ignores the mechanism of delivery.
Okay, what do you mean?
It is not just the accessibility of the procedures. The sheer volume and velocity of exposure is what makes this era unprecedented. The algorithm ensures you aren't just seeing a movie star on a magazine cover once a week at the grocery store.
I see.
To understand the psychological weight of that volume, the author brings up the Dunbar number.
Right, from anthropologist Robin Dunbar.
Yes. His theory suggests that human brains are biologically hardwired to handle social networks of about 150 people. That is our cognitive limit for maintaining stable social relationships.
So our brains evolved to assess our status within a tribe of that specific size?
Exactly. But think about your own feed this morning.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you can sit on your couch and scroll past 150 perfectly augmented, flawlessly lit, impossibly beautiful people in just a few minutes.
Before you've even finished your coffee. We biologically were not built to process that much beauty.
It totally short-circuits our perception of what is normal. Your brain looks at that feed and basically concludes that you are at the absolute bottom of the social and mating hierarchy of your tribe.
And because of this constant, overwhelming exposure to perfection, we develop what the author calls the cosmetic gaze.
Where you begin viewing your natural resting body merely as a before picture.
Yes. It becomes rough material waiting for an expert to come in and fix it. The comparison made in the text is brilliant. It's like a McKinsey consultant auditing a corporation for underperforming sectors.
You look in the mirror and think, the jawline sector is lacking profit, let's inject some capital there.
The forehead department is showing signs of depreciation. We need to freeze it.
It's a completely transactional way to view your own physical form.
And the psychological toll of that constant self-auditing is immense. The author actually connects this behavior to Michel Foucault's concept of the panopticon.
The prison concept.
Right, it was a conceptual prison design featuring a circular arrangement of cells around a central watchtower. The guards in the tower can see into every single cell, but the prisoners can never see into the tower.
Because the prisoners never know exactly when they are being watched, they just have to assume they're always being watched.
Exactly. They cannot risk stepping out of line, so they internalize the surveillance.
They become their own prison guards.
And digital beauty culture functions precisely like a modern panopticon. The central watchtower is the algorithm and the public metrics of success, the likes, comments, views. Those are the enforcement mechanism.
So women have internalized this surveillance to the point where they constantly monitor themselves and each other, hyper aware of any deviation from the Instagram face.
Right. You see this play out every time you check your reflection in a dark phone screen or scrutinize a photo before posting it, just bracing for the perceived judgment of the crowd.
The exhaustion of living in that prison is so real. There's that deeply resonant story in the text about the author's friend Eliza.
Oh, that story's tough.
They are on a trip, and Eliza just hits a breaking point. She starts screaming that she is sick to death of treating her body like an unfinished DIY project.
She is tired of calculating the caloric impact of every croissant, analyzing every angle of every photograph.
It's this raw moment of clarity where she sees the trap for exactly what it is.
But the punchline of that story is what makes it so devastating.
Yeah.
Because a few weeks after that breakdown, the author meets up with Eliza, who casually mentions she just booked a discounted lip filler appointment.
And she booked it with a trainee because it was cheaper, taking on additional physical risk just to maintain her place in the aesthetic hierarchy. Which brings up a massive contradiction here. I mean, if Eliza literally screams about how exhausted she is by this system, why is it so hard to just put down the phone and opt out? Are we the prisoners in this panopticon, or do we actually enjoy being the prison guards?
Well, opting out is incredibly difficult because the beauty industry pulled off a masterstroke of marketing.
How so?
They brilliantly disguise conformity as a form of feminist rebellion and personal agency. The industry co-opted the entire language of female empowerment.
So it's essentially like an arsonist selling you fire insurance, but marketing the insurance as an act of profound self-care.
That is a great analogy, yes. The text traces this linguistic shift back to the 1970s with L'Oreal's famous Because You're Worth It campaign.
Oh, right. They took the language of self-worth and cleverly tied it to the consumption of a product.
And fast forward to the present day, and that language has escalated dramatically.
Yeah.
You have pharmaceutical giants running ads for Juvederm dermal fillers, targeting millennials with the slogan, live it, work it, pose it, command it, boss it.
Boss it. Wow. They took the girl boss aesthetic, this idea of women being independent, ambitious, and in charge of their destinies, and they applied it directly to injecting your face with a syringe.
Exactly. It frames physical augmentation not as submitting to a rigid patriarchal standard, but as taking charge of your own life.
But the author points out a glaring paradox in this economic model. Young women today are out-earning previous generations, right?
Yes.
They supposedly have more financial freedom and autonomy than ever before, yet they are burdened with this invisible beauty tax.
And that tax is both financial and cognitive. I mean, procedures like filler cost hundreds of dollars and require constant painful upkeep every few months.
They are now viewed as necessary professional and social status symbols, much like buying a designer bag used to be, but applied directly to the flesh.
And the realization here, which references feminist author Jessa Crispin, is that women who profit from the patriarchy will inevitably help keep it in place.
Right. Because if a beauty company's entire revenue model relies on women feeling inadequate, so they purchase a fix, that company cannot genuinely claim to empower women.
It creates this intense tension between individual choice and collective harm. A woman might genuinely feel that getting Botox makes her feel confident and empowered. On an individual level, that feeling is real.
Sure. But the deeper question is whether it is truly empowering to buy into a standard that inevitably harms marginalized or working class women who simply cannot afford the upkeep.
Exactly. You are essentially raising the baseline of acceptable humanity to a price point many cannot reach.
To understand the roots of that baseline, the source material actually strips away all this modern language of empowerment and looks at where these physical ideals originated.
Because the underlying pressure is not a new phenomenon at all. The core philosophy of pixel flesh can be traced back centuries, straight into art history.
Yeah, the author takes us into the National Gallery to look at the Rokeby Venus, a painting from the 1600s. And we look at the wider historical canon of beauty, the Venus de Milo, Botticelli's The Birth of Venus.
And what do all these revered images of ideal beauty have in common? Historically, the ideal was alabaster skin, completely hairless, completely poreless.
And crucially, designed entirely by white, wealthy men for the explicit purpose of male spectatorship.
There is a quote from the art critic John Berger, included in the text, that perfectly captures the hypocrisy here.
Oh, the vanity quote.
Right. He wrote, "You painted a naked woman because you enjoyed looking at her, put a mirror in her hand, and you called the painting vanity, thus morally condemning the woman whose nakedness you had depicted for your own pleasure."
It is just a brutal encapsulation of the double bind. The standard is created, adherence to it is demanded, and then the people trying to achieve it are mocked for being vain. But wait, I want to challenge this historical comparison for a second. The author points out that today, women take the vast majority of selfies globally, right? Women make up 84% of all online influencers.
Yes, the demographics have shifted.
So if women are the ones holding the cameras, editing the pixels, and booking the appointments, aren't they finally in control of their own image? Or is the author arguing something else?
The argument laid out in the text is that this is a tragedy of repetition. Yes, women now hold the brush, which in this case is the smartphone camera.
Right.
But they are rigorously painting themselves to fit the exact same male gaze parameters that were dictated centuries ago.
So the platform is new, but the architectural blueprint remains the same.
Exactly. The software itself, the algorithms and the filters, has seamlessly replaced the old male painters. It optimized that historical standard and scaled it globally.
Wow. So we finally got the keys to the kingdom, but we're just using them to lock ourselves inside a prettier, more highly optimized cell.
That's a great way to put it.
When you synthesize all the arguments presented in this deep dive, the core takeaway is really about the mechanics of exclusivity. The modern beauty standard is, by definition, a moving target.
Its cultural and social value is determined entirely by its rarity.
Right. Because as soon as a specific look becomes too accessible to the masses, whether that is through cheap, discounted fillers or a free filter downloaded on an app, the standard will inevitably shift.
The goalposts must move so that the ideal remains exclusive, expensive, and largely unattainable for the average person. If everyone can achieve the Instagram face loses its currency.
So the reality for you listening is that whether you are actively participating in these trends, paying for injections and using filters, or if you are simply passively scrolling through a feed on your couch, this digital culture is actively shaping your perception of reality and human worth.
You cannot entirely opt out of the ecosystem just by putting your phone in another room because the people around you are still operating within it.
Because the standard influences the job market, romantic prospects, and baseline social respect.
It permeates everything.
Which leaves us looking toward the horizon. Because if you follow the logic of the source material, that beauty is defined by its rarity and exclusivity, we are rapidly approaching a massive cultural collision.
You're thinking about the advancements in AI.
Exactly. Think about the advancements in artificial intelligence happening right now. We are entering an era where AI and hyper-advanced video filters make flawless, poreless, symmetrical perfection instantaneous and completely free for literally anyone with a smartphone.
The rarity of the Instagram face is going to vanish completely. Absolute pixel perfection will cost nothing and take zero effort.
And when perfection loses its status, What takes its place? I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over as you navigate your own feeds this week.
It's a big question.
Will this hypersaturation of AI-generated perfection finally break the wheel? If the defining metric of beauty is that it must be rare and exclusive, perhaps in just a few years, a genuinely unedited, asymmetrical, aging human face will become the ultimate, unattainable luxury symbol.